Ryan O'Reilly will not be re-signing with the Maple Leafs. Or will he? Before we do get started, leave a comment down below. Does Ryan O'Reilly stay? Does he go? Let me know. And if you're enjoying the videos, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. And if you're really enjoying them, make sure to hit the bell so you get notified right when I upload a video. It was clear when the Maple Leafs traded for him back in February that they were getting a star player in the playoffs. He's a guy that when the St. Louis Blues won the Stanley Cup back in 2019, O'Reilly also won the Conn Smythe and the Selke in that same year. Toronto was getting a guy who performed in the playoffs, and that was supposed to help push this team even further past the first round, out of the second round, into the third round, and possibly all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals. But we all know what happened next. The Leafs eliminated the Tampa Bay Lightning before running into the Florida Panthers and losing to them in 5 games. But O'Reilly did a lot of good things throughout these 2 series. You go back to Game 3 against the Lightning, and Ryan O'Reilly was the one who scored the game-tying goal to send this one to overtime. And then in overtime, he won a face-off back to Morgan Rielly, and Morgan Rielly found the back of the net to give them a crucial win in Tampa. This was a win that put the Tampa Bay Lightning against the walls, and 3 games later, the Maple Leafs did the unthinkable and sent them packing and had the Leafs going to the second round for the first time since 2004. This was a big playoffs for O'Reilly for many of reasons. One, it's playing for his hometown team, the team that he grew up watching. This was supposed to be a season, a playoffs, where he really pushed and pushed hard to get this Toronto team to the promised land. And as good as he was helping the Leafs get past the first round, it feels like a missed opportunity for him and for the rest of the team. And now he's entering a pivotal moment in his career at 32 years old. He gets to test free agency and get paid. And that could be with the Maple Leafs, or it could be without. Now, we all know what happened in the media availabilities at the end of the season. O'Reilly used a lot of the words like they instead of we, and when that usually comes about, it usually gives a sense to everybody that that player specifically will not be back the next season. O'Reilly said just to be part of this organization was an amazing thing. And when you hear that from a player, you're not really thinking, all right, you know what, maybe he'll be back next year. He even went on to say that playing in Toronto was something that he would always cherish. And again, you hear that, you're not thinking he will be in the blue and white for the next few years, let alone 1 year next year. However, a few days ago, before the RBC Canadian Open, Ryan O'Reilly joined Overdrive and actually said a few interesting things. He talked a little bit about how they didn't do enough, and it seemed like that might have been a jab at Sheldon Keefe. I personally don't really know if that was the case, but a lot of people did think that. But he also sort of opened the door to returning to Toronto. He, again, instead of using the words they, he used the words we. And when you hear that, that opens the door to him possibly returning to Toronto next year and for the years to come. Another report from the CJ Show, Chris Johnston and Julian McKenzie. Chris Johnston reported that it's likely he might return to St. Louis and sign there, but also the fact that, hey, Toronto still might be in the running to re-sign him, as will other teams who will be able to fork up the cash to pay this guy long term. This is sort of a similar situation to the Michael Bunting video I made a few days ago, when Michael Bunting is set to get a lot of term. O'Reilly, at 32 years old as well, could sign his last contract in the NHL on July 1st. And with that being said, that's going to come with a lot of money in an AAV. That annual average value could be upwards of $6 million, $5.5 to $6 million. And if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs looking at that, you think that's not really possible. If you're a fan, if you're media, you look at that and you think, unless they're moving one of William Nylander or Mitch Marner off the books, this acquisition, this signing is really not in the cards. And there's a lot of positives and negatives to this signing. I mean, you look at him, you sign him for 4 years, he'll be 36 by the end of that deal. And it could turn into a bad deal really quick if there's an injury, if he's slowing down. Ryan O'Reilly has looked like he's lost a little bit of foot speed and doesn't seem like he could be a number 2 center on the Maple Leafs, which with John Tavares slowing down as well, it looks like the Maple Leafs really need. But in my opinion, that's the only negative. You can't really look at that and say, you know what, down the road, he's not going to be this, because he's a Stanley Cup winner, he's a Conn Smythe winner, a Selke winner. He still has a lot of good attributes that we saw in the playoffs that the Maple Leafs could use, and he would be, as much as it is maybe a signing that is a little bit risky, it would still be a good one. Another one of the positives, he was a big talker in the Leafs dressing room, and they don't really have a lot of those guys. And with, again, a player of his caliber, a player of his leadership, Toronto could really use that to take them to the next step. But again, if that is a reality, they might have to move on from one of their better players to make this signing happen. He's not going to sign a short-term deal, because at the end of the day, this could be his final contract in the NHL, and he needs to get paid, and he's looking to get paid. And if the Leafs go in there, even if they do offer him or don't offer him, we still don't know if Brad Treliving is even interested in bringing him back. If they are, they got to go in long-term and a high AAV, because as it seemed at the end of the season, as much as it was a joy for him to live out his childhood dream, he's focused on getting paid and really having a place where he can stay with his family for the next few years until likely he's ready to retire. So what do you think happens to Ryan O'Reilly? Do you think the Maple Leafs go in and try to re-sign him? Do you think he goes back to St. Louis? Do you think another team comes in and swoops him with a long-term high AAV deal? Let me know in the comments section down below. One more thing I do want to add about Ryan O'Reilly is, again, looking at his foot speed and looking at the fact that he's getting a bit slower. This Maple Leafs team, it seemed like, and it felt like against Florida, that they wanted to be faster. And with the speed not being there, they weren't able to match Florida's intensity in terms of up ice. They really got beat on the transition a lot by the Panthers. And with a guy like Ryan O'Reilly coming back, that really hinders that speed ability. And if you want that speed ability, you might want to look at re-signing someone else rather than O'Reilly. But what do I think? I think he, as much as it seems like he could be open to re-signing in Toronto, it feels like he's not going to be back. It seemed like that at the end of the pressers at the end of the season. It seemed like that even though he did say a few things on Overdrive, it still seemed like, as much as he did want to return to Toronto, that it's not in the cards. And that's okay. The Leafs don't need a guy like that as much as they would like a guy like that. There are players that could reinvent themselves or invent themselves into the player that Ryan O'Reilly is now. And I think that's a better story than bringing a guy in who already has that caliber and he's on the way to retirement. I think the Leafs need to get younger, not older. So that's what I think. But again, looking at him and Ryan O'Reilly and the potential of him coming back, I wouldn't hate the signing either. He's a good player. He has a lot of really good attributes. And again, Stanley Cup champion, Conn Smythe winner, Selke winner. You can't put those to the side and say, I wouldn't want him because of that. You get that, you're getting a very good player and a very important leader as well. But yeah, that is it for this one. Again, it's going to be interesting to see Ryan O'Reilly's future and whether or not he returns to Toronto, whether or not he returns to St. Louis. It would be very interesting if he did return to St. Louis, but that'll be happening in a few weeks on July 1st. It could even go further than that. We will see, but that is going to be where I end off today's video. I have a question. If you've made it this far as well, should I make YouTube videos on other NHL teams, other NHL players? Let me know in the comment section down below, because I know once free agency ends, it's going to be really slow for content. And if I want to make more of this type of stuff, you know, the more NHL teams, the better I have for ideas for stuff like that. So let me know in the comment section down below. Again, make sure to leave a like if you really enjoyed it and subscribe as well. It helps a lot. And yeah, 3 weeks or 2 weeks until Ryan O'Reilly's future is decided. Will it be in Toronto? Will it be in St. Louis? Or will it be elsewhere? We'll see.